Bryce Tubbs coming to you live. Now, you might be watching this on a number of different locations. You might be watching inside of our Facebook group of over 25,000 accountants and bookkeepers. You might be watching this on my Facebook profile, maybe my Facebook business page. I'm using an application called StreamYard, which just allows me to simultaneously stream from a lot of different places. But today's video is all about superpowers. How 3 of my clients reached $11,000 per month in 3 totally different ways. So I just kind of want to share this thing with you. And before we go any further, there's a couple of housewarming things we got to do. If you're watching this thing live, write down hashtag team live to know that there are other people watching. I can make it really interactive. Also, if you're watching this on the replay, right, hashtag team replay. And I know I'll leave some goodies along the way to make sure that you get the full value of this thing. Also, write down hashtag connect if you want me to connect with you to answer some questions you might have about growing your business. And finally, if you want some help growing your business without having to make all the mistakes that cause most people to fail in their business, I just invite you to go and book a call with me by clicking the link either above or below the video, depending on where you're watching this, to book a call with me to see if I can help you out. Now, jumping into this thing, let's go, let's attack. So the main thing you have to, or that most people need to think about is what works for them. So one mistake that I see a lot of people make, especially if they're just starting to make some traction in their business, like maybe they got their first ever consultation call, and they did that by, going inside of like a Facebook group, and they got their first consultation, right? But the person either signed up or the person didn't, and the person stops. They just stop actually doing the activity that works, and they try to say, hey, well, I use the Facebook group, but what if I want to try Upwork, right? And maybe they get some results, maybe they don't get some results. Then they try LinkedIn. Then they try Instagram. Then they try emailing people. Then they try, YouTube channels. Then it's like they keep bouncing from thing to thing to thing to thing to thing. They never really take resource and take stock into what's actually worked in the past for them and how to expand that. So if I could go back in time and tell myself, like when I got started back in 2014, when I started my accounting firm, it would be identify what is one strength you have. And then what can you do to move forward? Hey, also one thing to know is I cannot see who's actually commenting inside of the stream because I'm using this like chat. I'm not actually in Facebook. So if you could write down maybe your name inside the chat, so I'll be able to like actually call you by name because I don't want to just ignore you. Now, going back to what we're talking about. So you have to really take that down. So one thing that you could do is you can actually take down like a sheet of paper or a resource and really look at what have been the easiest ways that you've either connected with a client, you've ever made a new friend, you've got a new referral partner. So really start looking that down. For me, for example, my main superpowers are communication. That means like written posts. That means doing videos like these. That means like talking to people. Another superpower that I have is I have incredible ability to learn. And I have the ability to adapt, right? So like learning how to spend more money to build bigger companies, right? Learning how to you spend $5,000 with $0 in return. You buy a $30,000 program and it gets no results, right? The ability to adapt without like getting discouraged or without getting frustrated or without quitting on myself. That's a superpower that I've kind of developed. Now I'm developing more superpowers. Like right now, I'm developing the ability to scale, because everyone kind of talks about everyone talks about scaling their business, but a lot of people are not really in a position to actually scale your business. See, for me, until you're at least $50,000 a month, I don't really consider it scaling a business, right? Because when you look at some of these other companies, like there's like $10 million a year companies, there are $100 million a year companies, there's $1 billion per year companies. When we're on the internet, we're talking about 100K a month, 200K a month. That's not really scaling. That's when you're starting to scale, but we're still trying to grow, right? So that's a skill set I'm kind of developing right now. Now, whenever I talk to my clients, for example, let's say Paul, his superpowers right now are the ability to be able to get, number one, people really like talking to him, right? So when he's on consultation calls, he doesn't have to feel like he's selling, right? He can just have a conversation. The person actually likes him, and they actually forgive him for a lot of different mistakes that he might make inside the call, and it makes it easy for him to get people to sign up, right? His second superpower is getting business owners, either like CPAs or other bookkeepers, to subcontract work out to him, right? He has a number of big clients just like that who really like him, which goes back to superpower number one. and then want to help him out by giving him work. That's a superpower that a lot of people don't realize. Another superpower that he has is he's actually good at getting clients from Upwork. Now, this is an interesting thing, right? Because sometimes you might hear me talk negatively about Upwork. And for most people, Upwork is really, really hard, right? Now, the reason why some of my students can actually utilize Upwork after they, go through my program is because my program teaches you how to sell, right? And once you know how to sell, you can get clients in the grocery store. You can get clients at church. You can get clients at the local networking event. You can get clients using billboard marketing. You can get clients from email marketing. See, it's more about that skill set first, and the platform that you use to go and market is secondary to the ability to sell, right? So that's why Upwork is now working pretty good for him. But it doesn't really work for every single person. But again, it comes back to knowing your superpower, right? So that right there is about 3 different superpowers that we've identified for him. And every single time that, maybe we start getting distracted or he wants to go and do something else, I say, hey, remember your superpower. Remember what's gotten you here. Remember what's gotten you to that $11,000 a month. Do not quit on that thing that's gotten you to $11,000 per month because it is proven to work. Don't stop something that's working. Never stop something that's working. Always double down and always go really, really hard on it. Okay. Second student, we'll say, for example, Nicole. So Nicole's superpower is really about, we call it Referral Force. So basically what Referral Force, that's just kind of like a code I use inside of my program, where it's all about learning how to get friends and family to be able to start getting leads and getting clients for you, right? So for her, she has her phone, right? She went through probably about 1% of all the contacts she's gotten over the, past years just in her life and just from talking to people and, family and friends. And that actually got her to about $5,000 because she was referred 3 clients. She was referred a pizza shop at like 2 locations. She was referred, I think she was referred like a landscaping company. And then she was also referred, I can't remember what the third company was, but basically about $4,000 to $5,000 came from like referrals just from going and talking to friends and family and really digging into that network. Now, it's not as simple as just like, hey, friends and family, do you want to give me some clients? Because if everybody did that, it would just, it wouldn't be a real secret or superpower. But there's a way that you do it, right? And it causes some people to be able to, get the friends and family to send them leads, or it causes you to go and have that effect where you touch on your family and friends like, oh, I'll keep you in mind. And you never hear from them again about business, or you never hear from them again with a lead, right? So there's a way you have to do it. That's her superpower. Okay, she's really good at that. Now, second version of her superpower is local, we call it local marketing, right? So basically for her, right, she's getting clients in her city, and she doesn't really live in like an affluent city or anything like that. It's just she knows how to tap into the affluence inside of every area, right? Every area has certain people who have money, right? Like it's very, very improbable that you're going to be in a location where there's zero money. Even if it's in like the worst state, think about the people who, like the local government still is making a lot of money, right? It might not appear like it, but oftentimes at least someone's making money inside the location. And if you're in a place where there's nobody making money, okay, you can always go over to the next town over, right? And if you live in a place where there are no people in the next town over, well, then you need to go on the internet, right? So for her strategy was mixing online and offline. So on her way towards either going to work or going to like do errands, she would take note of every single business that was along the way. So whether it was a grocery store, whether it was a restaurant, whether it was a hair salon, whether it was a barber shop, whether it was a chiropractor, she would just take notes of every single person there. And then what she would do is she would write a letter to each one of them and introducing herself and seeing if they want some help. Then she would also go on Facebook and connect with the business owner. Like she'd do a little bit of research on Google, see exactly who the business owner was. Then she would go send that person a friend request. Then she would also go about between 3 days to 5 days later on LinkedIn and friend request those same people on LinkedIn. Then a couple days later, she would actually go and send an email. Now this email is, hey, I know you've seen some of my stuff. Would you be interested in working together? And then if that doesn't work, if that just doesn't get as much results or a response you want, or if they actually say, yes, I would like some help, she would actually go to their office with 2 business cards in hand. The first business card, I think it was actually, 3 business cards. It was 3 business cards. So 1 is for the business owner, 2 is for the people that the business owner is going to give those cards out to, right? And she was just panning it out like that. And she's building these relationships. And for her, she's going to be probably at $30,000 a month. It took her about 37 days to get to $11,000 a month, but she's probably going to end up being at about 37 thousand per month relatively quickly. It's just a matter of time because again, it hasn't been very long since she got started doing that strategy, and it takes time for a local strategy like that to expand. Right? That's her second strength. Her second strength. Her third strength is her ability to be very tough. Right? So there's a lot of people, and they kind of like have this misperception of like sales or a misperception of how you should be closing deals and working with people. And it tends to them saying like things like I'm an introvert, right? And I'm not saying it to be an extroverted, like loud person in order to make, your business work. But what I am saying is you need to be able to, if you are inside of that situation where you're talking to the business owner, you need to be really firm. For example, she said what her price was. The business owner's like, "Oh, that's really high. Oh, can you do it for this amount?" And she said, "No, I can't do it for this amount." And business owner was confused, and he was like struggling, and he was wanting to lower the price, but she just held her ground, and eventually just like, okay, we're just hobbling over a couple dollars because the person was making $1 million a year, right? What is $1,000 a month versus 750 a month? And you're talking to someone who actively, like on their personal income, brings in 100,000 a month. Like it's not very much money, right? But most people, they struggle when it comes to being tough, holding their ground, and being able to get what they want, right? And that's the skill set you need to develop if you're going to be successful inside of this business, right? Now for her, she just happened to have developed that skill set through a prior job of being tough. It didn't necessarily wasn't the skill set of sales, but it was a skill set of being tough that she just developed over time. And that's one of her superpowers, right? If you notice anything about the superpowers that we're talking about inside of this video, none of them are stuff that you are inherently born with. There are all these different things that you had to learn. For example, like me with communication, right? As you might know this if you've been watching any of my videos in the past, but it took me 36 calls to get my first bookkeeping client. Okay, 36 calls. That means there was 35 times before that where I would say the price, the person would laugh at me, or the person would say that's way too high, or the person would say they're totally ready to get started, but then I never heard from them again, or like they would ignore me, or they would like reschedule last minute. And it took me 35 times of saying what my price was before I even got my first client. It was on the call number 36. And that was actually from one of the people, like probably call number 33, decided to say yes to give me a chance. But he came after I'd already done like 35 calls. All to say, it's not something that you're born with, right? I had to, in my first year, I actually spent about $35,000. It's like 35,600, like some change on like courses, right? So I buy like courses on like how to use LinkedIn. I bought courses on how to network. I bought courses on how to run advertisements. I bought courses on how to do B2B marketing, just means business to business marketing. I bought courses on how to actually do like consultations, like structures and scripts and different things, right? And I just had to develop that over time. And that's how, I was able to grow my skill set so much faster than the average person. Not to say that, my skill set is hugely immense, right? We do, mid six figures every single year. We're soon gonna be keep growing faster and faster and faster. But all that to say is it's because we lean into our superpowers and we really focus on the things that are really leading to our results, right? Because when it comes to business, there's something called asymmetrical returns. That means there's certain small things that you can do that lead to huge results over time. Huge results over time. And for me, that's just focusing on like Facebook. That's focusing on the same LinkedIn messaging script that I give my students for their accounting firms. I just use it for my accounting firm. You just use the same exact thing over time, and it keeps growing and it keeps growing and it keeps growing and it keeps growing, and you keep getting better at getting more and more people to respond, and more people who are interested in working with you. Then you start selling your services at a much higher and higher and higher price, and then pretty soon you're sitting at mid six figures. Now, mid six figures can mean a lot of things. Generally, when I say mid six figures, I'm thinking, 500K, 600K. Whenever I mention that, some people, mid six figures might be like 300 to 400, right? It just really depends on yours, but that's just kind of what I'm thinking whenever I talk about mid six figures. All I have to say is, guys, if you do the right things, you'll be able to grow wherever you want. However much money you want to make, it's possible for you. It's just you have to be, one, willing to put in the work. Two, be willing to be very self-aware like knowing what these superpowers are, noticing what's working for you, right? And then from there, you have to be very, very, very focused. That would be the word that I would say. If I had to like start from scratch, it'd be focus. That's the one thing that I have that a lot of people don't have is focus. Focus, 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 focus. Because I don't have a lot of energy, right? I don't have more energy than every single person in the world, but I do have more focus, and I am willing to stay with something. And the final thing is, I'm actually willing to go broke for what I want in life. That is a big difference that a lot of people are not willing to do. I'm willing to go broke, right? I don't mind not having any money. I really don't care, to be honest. I know that's not going to happen where I don't have any money, but it's just one of those things where it's like sometimes there's things that are more important in life. Sometimes, having a good team, having good client experiences, having good student results, making sure your students actually like you. That's a big thing. Making sure your clients like you, making sure that you're delivering great results, making sure you're getting testimonials, making sure that you're offering stuff for free like that. That's the stuff that's going to help you guys get to whatever level you want in your business. And hopefully you stay around long enough to see, how far Bryce actually goes, right? If you want to see how far I go, you want to see how big I go, maybe you haven't quite joined the journey, maybe you're not inside the mentorship program. I would always recommend you join the mentorship program as soon as possible so that you can go along for the ride as long as possible, so you can actually see what it looks like, to what someone who has a six-figure accounting or bookkeeping business looks like, and what does it look like when they're expanding their service line, when they're building more resources for people. So if you want some help growing your business, I'm not saying that you have to go and join a mentorship program, but I'm saying it would probably be the fastest way for you to go get the result that you want. So if you want to go get speed, you want to do this without making a lot of mistakes, you want to do this without having to risk a lot of your money, I just invite you to go ahead and click on the link out there above or below the video to see if I can help you. I can't help everybody. It's just a pure fact, right? There are certain people who are just not a good fit. So we have to evaluate that together to make sure that if I did invite you inside, you're actually going to get results. Because I personally don't work with anyone who I can't get results for. So if you want to see if I can help you, go ahead and click on the link either above or below the video to book a call with me to see if I can help you. I'll talk to you soon, and I will see you on the video. Have a great rest of your day.